Hi, everyone. Jeff Cote here with Boating Tech Talk. We've got a question from a fellow boater, Benjamin. Benjamin found himself after 3 nights at Anchorage and woke up to a dead starter battery on uh, his starboard engine. So Benjamin keeps on going and says, my mechanic discovered that although there was only one visible connection on the starter battery post, further down the line, there was a bus bar which had multiple connections. One was the dinghy lifter, and the other one was a windlass. The boat is a little bit older. It's a 2003, and I'm the third owner, so I can't vouch that the boat was manufactured this way, and I have no wiring diagram. Now I am suspect. How could I figure this out on my own? Well, the reality is boating is not easy, and if you want a easy hobby, you do an all-inclusive. So the first thing is, yeah, it's tough, especially with boats that have left the factory and things get added on. It's not uncommon, in this case, not uncommon for Benjamin to find a starter battery to do more than just starter loads. Decisions are taken all the time when new gear is added. In this case, it would be, for example, a dinghy lifter, and then maybe even the windlass, probably not added later on, but dinghy lift, probably at the commissioning stage. And electricians or installers have to make decisions. And one of them is where I'm going to run all these loads. Am I going to run it on the house battery or am I going to run it on the engine battery? And sometimes owners make decisions based on assumptions of behavior. In this instance, for example, the previous owner of Benjamin's boat could have said, hey, listen, I'm only ever going to use the dinghy lift when the engines are running because I'm only going to take the dinghy out of the water before I leave an anchorage. And I'm always going to put the dinghy in the water when I get to an anchorage. And that's a rule. And as long as the owner follows that rule, then using the dinghy lift won't cause the starboard engine battery to die as because you're running a dinghy lift off that battery. But most of the time, the reality is people forget those things, or the next owner doesn't know these rules. And so goes back to Benjamin's question is, well, I need a diagram. How am I going to figure this out? Well, you're going to figure this out by curiosity. And that means staring at wires. And it means literally being curious. Follow the wire. Where does it go to? Now, of course, none of us are going to have this time to do this every day. And we're not going to be able to do this on, but some days boating is a little bit more mellow than others. Maybe the weather's not as great. And I certainly invite all of you, Benjamin included, to be curious and to find out what is connected to what. And especially in the absence of a diagram, which makes it even more sort of worrisome, is not knowing what we're doing. Now, in Benjamin's case, especially as a new boat owner, what I would recommend is look at battery voltages, even when you're at anchorage, especially even your engine battery voltage, and make sure that that battery voltage does not fluctuate when you're actually not running your engines. So for instance, here's an example advice I'd give to Benjamin and all of you boaters. If you come to an anchorage and you stop the engine, I would ask all of you to look at your analog voltage gauge, which all of us should have at the very least, or a digital one, and see what is the battery voltage when you stop the engines. And after a little period of time, that battery voltage should steady out to around 12.8, 12.6 if it was a 12-volt battery. And then what you want to do is you want to glance at that voltage, that starter battery voltage. It should not be going down while you're in anchorage, certainly not for 3 days if it was done in a way that you would expect. Now, if you, for example, suddenly are doing loads and you're doing stuff and you've noticed every time you glance at your AC panel or DC panel, you're seeing that now the battery voltage is 12.4, it's 12.2, 11.9, 11.5, 11. Why is your battery voltage going down over time? That's a legitimate cause for concern. Doesn't mean it's bad, because I wouldn't say that, having a dinghy lift on an engine battery is a bad thing, as long as you know it's there and as long as you know that you should only run the windlass and the dinghy lift when your engines are running, which means your alternators are recharging your battery, and then therefore you're not actually affecting the battery capacity for your starter battery. But that comes from curiosity. And that curiosity is looking at the voltage. So I invite all of you to make sure that your starter battery voltage stays relatively steady while you're at anchor or even at the dock if you're not connected to shore power. And if it isn't, which could be normal, find out why. What are your DC loads that are connected to your starter battery? And should those DC loads ever be running when you're not actually having the engines turning, which would create output, which would recharge the batteries? So curiosity is important. And remember, boating isn't easy. And those sort of mishaps happen to all of us. So thanks for tuning in. And I appreciate Benjamin's question. And to all of you, safe boating. Thanks for watching. So if you're curious again, go on our website and find out more answers and solutions with this sort of setup. And thanks for asking. And thanks for all of you for listening and tuning in.